Hi everyone, my name is Darshan. Welcome to a new podcast series that we are bringing to you called Dirghayu. Now, many of you might know Dirghayu means a long life, a healthy, long life, hopefully a 100-year life. And what we are going to do in this Dirghayu podcast series is invite people such as the guest that I have today, and I'll give a quick introduction about him. Understanding, decoding what does it take to live a healthy and a long life which is full of inspiration, success, and happiness. And that's what we are trying to do in this podcast series. This podcast series is a collaboration between DASAR and Startup Socials. Startup Socials is represented by Dr. Viraj Vaidya. Let me do a quick introduction of our guest today, Amit Gandhi. Amit Gandhi is a leadership professional who has worked with various medtech companies. He has owned P&L statements. He has led massive teams within the healthcare and medtech space across the world, across India, across Southeast Asia. He's also a double master's. He's done a master's program from INSEAD. He's done a master's program from London Business School. And a quick context, what we are going to do is we are going to try to decode, is a 100-year life a curse or a gift? And what if you lasted or you lived longer than 100 years? How should you think about it? How should you plan? And that's what we are going to do and discuss today. So Amit, welcome to Dirghayu. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Darshan, for calling me here. It's a very exciting topic, and I would love to have a chat and conversation on this.
So the first question, is a 100-year life a gift or a curse?
Well, first of all, I must say the fact that you're generating the awareness on a 100-year life is a topic that will make my professor Andrew Scott extremely proud. Andrew Scott is the one who wrote this book, and I had he's a microeconomic professor at London Business School, and they had this 100-year life as a topic, as a subject to learn as a macroeconomic class in London Business School, and I got introduced to this concept and introduced to the work that Andrew Scott does and his team does in London Business School. So first of all, congratulations for bringing this topic and having conversation on this topic, which I think is a very pertinent and important topic of the century. So good to hear that. Now, your question on is 100-year life a gift or a curse? So a lot of my management education and management experience, the best answer on such question is it depends. It depends. Now, the reason I say that is, so the 100-year life can become a gift and should become a gift. But there are conditions for it, right? In the sense that it will become a gift if we actively engage in responding to this slow but certain change in the society, right? So when I say we prepare, I think there are three big entities that need to prepare for this. One is the individuals, obviously the ones that, the second is the government, and the third is the institutions. Right. All three need to prepare in different ways to this impending reality and an opportunity to make 100-year life as a gift.
Brilliant. It's fascinating to me that you've studied under Andrew. The concept or the reason why Dirghayu was, a reason to launch Dirghayu was reading the 100-year life. I read that earlier this year, and the breakdown of the current 3-stage life, which is you study, then you work for the next 20, 30, 40 years, and then you're supposed to retire for the next 20 to 30 years. And then you kind of are dead by 70, 80, 90. But another fascinating fact is in Japan, you have a lot of people who have lived beyond 100 years. I think in the 1950s or 60s, the US government used to give a dish which was an honor to centenarians, which is congratulations for living a 100-year life. But they stopped that, I think, in 1995 or 2005. I don't know exactly the dates, because there were too many Japanese people who were living a 100-year life. That is an awesome problem to have, where your people on an average are now expected to live 100 years. In India, I think we are still in the late 70s, early 80s, and in terms of the lifespan that we have. So my question to you as a follow-up is, all right, it's a gift, it's an opportunity, provided we use it that way. So how can someone plan or think of a 100-year life? Say if you are a teenager today, if you are like, about 35 like me today, and someone who's say 65 today.
Oh no, so actually you've raised many questions within that question, right? So one of the important things about the 100-year life is how is it going to impact people and how is it going to impact different people, right? Different demographics. So let's look at first of all the staging that you talked about, right? So if you look at, if you're right, people have thought about three stages in life, education, job, and retirement. And that retirement used to be a small window, right? It's a small window where you would have leisure if you have savings, otherwise you just struggle and wait, prepare yourself to die. Right. So that's has been, depending on which country and which demographics, which socio-economic strata, the way you prepare yourself to die has been different. But that is changing. That is dramatically changing, and today the life is multi-stage life. There has been 2 years. Just look at statistics, right? Let's look at some numbers in terms of how this is shaping up. So in last 100 years, every decade we have added 2 years to the life expectancy, right?
Right.
So that's a phenomenal achievement, because that means people who used to die at 60 are dying at 80, right? And this will continue to happen. There is no trend that today shows, apart from of course pandemics and stuff like that, which can be a temporary disruption, shows that the life expectancy trend will change, at least in the next few decades.
Right.
And why has this happened in the first place? Right? So there are two big reasons why this has happened. One, the cause of death. The big causes of death have changed. So there is very little death happening due to war. So the violent death has reduced in the last 50 years dramatically.
Yeah.
Right. Then infant mortality has dramatically reduced over different countries. Of course, it's different in different countries, but broadly it has reduced dramatically.
Right.
And so these are causes of death. So one reason is that the causes of death has really improved, and the second has been the advances in science. Science is the new religion today. Right? So the medical advances that has happened over the number of over the years, and one of the biggest has been obviously infection, winning over infectious diseases. So people today don't die much because of infectious diseases, which they used to till 1920. So people have prolonged life, medical advances are prolonging it further. So you have this whole impact of all these factors converging to make a 100-year life really a reality, right? So this is the statistics behind a 100-year life. Is not that it's a hope, a wish, or something that we need to work with. It's something that's happening for sure. What is we need to do, and that comes to the second part of the question, is how do we really age well? It's not 100-year life, and as Andrew says always, the 100-year life is not about adding 10 or 20 years at the end of your life. It's adding in the middle. And that's the shift. And the one who prepare for that shift better will have a better aging. There is a diversity in aging in the way people will age.
Right.
Some people will age differently than others based on the choices that they make. And that's really going to determine.
So can you expand on the choices? Can you expand on what you mean by people aging differently?
There is enough research that suggests that 2 to 3 factors really impact the way you age. One is health, and how much care you take of your health, right? How much time you spend in improving your health, how aware and conscious you are about your health choices, which means lifestyle choices, which
Correct.
means food, which means stress, dealing with
Exercise.
stress, exercise. But there are other big things that are hugely related to how you age well, and that are not just health related. The second has the one of the most important has been sense of purpose. There has been quite a high correlation in multiple studies that people who have a sense of purpose live and age better. And the second is, of course, people who are active. So, in a way, feeling needed and feeling useful
Right.
are two very important elements for people to age better.
You've touched such a core or critical part of what we do at DASAR. At DASAR we operate on what I've created is a DASAR Renaissance framework, right? Renaissance essentially means reinventing yourself. And the first pillar of the three pillars of DASAR Renaissance framework is finding your calling, finding your purpose, a mission that you care about and you want to pursue. Then the next leg is money. Am I financially independent? And then the third part of it is health. They say health is wealth for a reason, right? And that essentially is the trio. You've touched on one point, which is aging well, and that also means retirement, right? I'll give you a quick example. My father-in-law has recently, sold his business, exited his business, and he's kind of ready for a retired life. Whereas I'm telling him, okay, now you have a good 30-year runway ahead of you. You have the benefit of money, you have the benefit of experience, you have the benefit of network. What are you going to do over the next 30 years?
Yeah.
And this is something which is completely new as a concept to him, right? So maybe we'll tackle that one first because I see a lot of people in that category.
For example, this podcast, right? Or such events or discussions on longevity. Whatever I'm saying, it's basically what I've learned from Andrew and his interactions with many other people as well as my program. But when I have used this and experienced this in life, there are some interpretations that I have made on my own as well. But so go back to that awareness part that I talked about by doing such activities. Today we assume we have a, if someone asks you how many years you think you will live, right? Most of them will not answer, first of all. But those who will answer will really benchmark and anchor based on what their grandparents lived or their parents lived.
Correct.
Right. So if you ask this question in general and take a random survey, most of them will come up with an answers which is approximately the similar age of their parents or grandparents that they know of death of. What they fail to realize is that world has changed, and it's natural because
Right.
they don't live with this data each day. Is that there has been, as I said, 2 years added each year. Each decade to
Correct.
your life expectancy, which means just in 5-6 decades you have 10-15 years more.
Correct.
Right? So that awareness is lacking, and you plan subconsciously as if you're going to live 70. But the data says that every second person that will be born from now on would live 100-year life.
Right.
Unless there is some major disruption that happens.
Right.
So that means you have to prepare for that kind of life. That means, going back to your question, is that how different segments, youth, somewhere you asked me in terms of, how does people who are in their 20s, 50s, 70s think about this differently? Because what you are at an age today, you can't change that, reverse that. But the way you have to think is, so people in their 20s, as you rightly said, will have much more to plan for. Now, if you're getting educated in something, just imagine you are in 15-year-old wanting to decide what line of work you want to go in, and you would be, and you as a parent, you have two lovely daughters, you have to decide for them, for example.
Correct.
In terms of, okay, what should I educate them in? What you need to realize is that they will be in the job workforce in 2035 or 2040, and their career will span from 2040 to the end of the century. Their
Right.
lifespan will be the end of the century, 2100. So they're born in 2012, they will live almost like 2112.
Correct.
So they will be working till 2100. I can bet you, if you tell me what my company will do and deal with in 2030, I would be difficult to predict that.
Correct.
Predicting what will be relevant in terms of the technology advances that is happening from a job perspective, from a skill perspective in 2080 for you is extremely challenging and difficult.
Right.
So what that means is education will move from a one-time event to a lifelong education. So that means essentially that people will have to prepare their minds, the young ones will have to prepare their minds to actually be open to learn and have leisure at the same period of time
Correct.
to sustain this.
And
Right?
you're a good example because I've seen you up close for the last 10, 12 years where you had an MBA, then you did a master's at INSEAD, then you recently did another master's, right? Just walk me through your thinking where even, you know, you having been so well accomplished professional in the healthcare space, why would you continue to upgrade your knowledge base with such certifications, qualifications
Yeah.
every now and then?
Yeah, no. It would be glamorous for me to say that I knew this all earlier. No, not really. But I had an intuit realization uh, that to remain relevant, what has served me earlier will not be enough.
Right.
Right. So when I went to London Business School 2-3 years back at the age of 42, most people thought I'm mad, leaving a job at GE Healthcare and a very accomplished career, and the fact that I had already good masters behind me, those boxes were ticked. Then why do you need to again go and tick it twice, right? But that's was not going in my mind. I knew that I have another at least 15-20 years of career, which I only came to realize that no, I probably have 35 when I went to Andrew's class and realized, and I should say, Andrew Scott, when he explained all of this that I'm talking today, the class at the end of the class was people of 69 people with 18 years of work experience as an average. It's a special Sloan Masters program which is designed for experienced individuals. All were so somber, so serene when they heard all of this and that realization. And then Andrew said, you know what, I'm telling you a good news. You will live longer. You will age more gracefully. Why are you so sad and depressed? But that's the impact it had in terms of people who are trying to think, what would it mean to live in 100-year life? But going back to your question, right? So I had this motivation to remain relevant. I discovered that I did the best thing by actually going there and understanding that what I was thinking was more urgent than what I thought it was.
Right.
Right. And I'm not saying you need to do necessarily a B school program
Whatever it
for
might be.
becoming relevant, but you need to keep investing and having a lifelong learning to remain relevant. So I looked at that as my first year in the next 10 years, that program, right? So what do I learn? What are the new networks, connections, learning that I'm going to develop over the next 10 years? And that was the first year of that 10 years. And you need to keep thinking like that, because it, earlier, if you are 50, you are an expert in something and you are just that.
Right.
Right? And by 55 you retire, and you are just, you go away from the, I think today, with technology, and with the mindset, if you prepare yourself, you need to be able to actually throw the baggage away and learn new things to remain relevant and because the technology advances is so good, not only you have the opportunity for lifelong learning, but you also have an opportunity for lifelong earning, because you can be useful in many other ways. if you open up your mind to a gig economy and open your mind that you don't have to have a career ladder, that each time you have to have a position which is better than the earlier one, I think those days are gone. So that's very critical to have a mindset for a 50-year-old executive who has been at the helm to actually rediscover and reinvent himself or herself to do something new and valuable. If you have that, I think you have a very good chance of aging well and remain earning well to sustain that. Coming to your financial questions, I think there is no question about the fact that the money earned in the pension will not sustain. So you will have to live and earn longer. But because you are aging more gracefully, and if you have taken those choices, you will be able to contribute to this economy much more. For that matter, in UK, in data, right, the maximum contribution, and I was hearing Andrew again on this, the maximum contribution to the employment growth has happened, guess what year? It has happened in the age group of 55.
Wow.
Right. So that's, the world is changing, the policies have to change. We're not prepared well for this.
Yeah.
The countries are not prepared well, the institutions are not prepared well, and the individuals, of course, are not prepared well for this change.
Let me give you a stat as well. Okay, you have the United States Social Security, which kind of takes care of its people post retirement as well. Just recently, I read a news article which said that the Social Security will not be able to fulfill its obligations, financial obligations, from 2035, which is just 13 years from now, right? It is mind-boggling that the system that was designed for the last 100 years, we are trying to force fit it in the next 100 years, right? So we need to evolve. The institutions, the organizations, the government, of course the people have to do, and you've given some good input on that. But now let's talk about at a society level, right? What can organizations, what can institutions do?
First of all, I don't think we know all the answers.
Correct.
First of all is the institutions and individuals who take decisions in these institutions have to become open and aware of what this means. That's probably the first step.
Yeah.
It is happening to a certain extent in some places, but it's too few and too niche today. It need to happen much more. The organizations will have to come up to this reality and prepare themselves for. Now, what are the few things that I can think of, or I've heard from people like Andrew or others about those things? Working in an organization, right? I've been working in multiple MNC organizations for the last 20 years, and they probably are the best prepared amongst many others, but still is that age is a bias.
Yeah.
Age, there is an immense amount of bias
on
for
both sides
age.
of the spectrum.
So we do talk about gender diversity a lot, and we are trying to conquer that, but we do not talk as much about the age diversity that we need. Tomorrow's world, workforce and life is going to be multi-generational.
Right.
So the ability to work with the young and the old together and creating that ecosystem, the culture, and remove that bias will probably be the single most important thing for the organizations to work at.
Right.
Those notions of people in 50s or higher 50s should not be chosen for the top executive jobs, right? Because they might not have the energy to do that. You need to be re-evaluated. And if even at all that's true, then the workforce has to be trained in a manner where you're able to work with those who have a lot of experience, and the old has to work with the young who has a lot of energy in such a way that it's collaborative, useful, and distributes the right economic parity in terms of how you work on those, right? So making use of, because a leader, right? A leader, just look at a leader. Leader is someone, many a times in an organization, someone who drives the business, drives the people, knows what, takes a lot of decisions which help to acquire or to get a customer and all of that. But a leader is also a coach. And many a times, a leader as a coach role can be done best by those who are graying. And so the tomorrow's world is going to be a gray world.
Right.
Right? There would be more number of gray people by 2040 than not.
Right.
So we have to acknowledge that reality.
Correct.
And create an ecosystem to utilize the learnings and the wisdom that has been captured by these people in a way that helps them, that helps the society, and that helps everyone.
Right.
Interesting is that many a times there's also a chance that these grey old people, or so-called old people, in their 50s will decide the policies. So the politics of age is going to become more vibrant,
Right.
and they would decide policies which might make the young frustrated, because those might be favorable to the changing demographics. So how do you manage this dynamics? Because you need all of this, and that's why I say it's a multi-generational workforce. How do an organization prepare for a multi-generational workforce is something that the institutions will have to work. The biggest other institutions that have probably a higher role in this, or a bigger role, is government. How do you make policies that really take care of all of these issues, or direct people to these issues? I'll tell you a funny thing. I think there is a policy that one of the states, either China is trying to do that, or one of the states in US is also trying to do that, is making compulsory for young people to go and visit their old parents once or certain frequency in a year. Now that's crazy, right? It's kind of crazy. But the point is, the parents have taken care of their kids in education for the first 30 years.
Right.
Now the children never had the opportunity to take care of their parents for 30 years. They have now.
Right.
But would it be really easy and impossible to do that? Not really, from an economic standpoint. Because in countries like China, where there's, for example, one-child policy, which means on one family there are 4 parents that you have to take care of. Economically, it might not be feasible to do that, right? And hence the aging society and the policies and the government policies around how you are going to manage this is going to become very, very critical.
Very fascinating. Now, the other part of this you talked about is lifestyle changes, and a big part of what I do at DASAR is to help people be more accountable by and cause behavior change, right? Behavior change on performance, how you work, on your money, manage your own goddamn money. And the third is your fitness, right? Mental fitness and physical fitness. And all three, you'll be surprised to know, I've worked with about 50 odd clients so far. And fitness is the most difficult one, because people know they want to have a better looking body, they want to have a stress-free life, they want to sleep better, they know what they need to do, but they don't do it. Right? And I think we are all humans. We are all flawed in some way or the other. Would love to hear your thoughts in terms of, from an awareness standpoint, if we are talking about a gift of a long life, what's the point of, having all the money at the age of 50, 60, 70, going to Goa and not being able to enjoy the beach or a hike or cycle 5 kilometers? Right? So would love to hear some thoughts around lifestyle changes and what it takes. And you've been in the healthcare space for a very long time.
To work a lot, earn a lot, and remain fit is not an easy choice. I'll again quote from one of the Andrews interview is, every 50-year-old or every 40-year-old or every 30-year-old have to start thinking that if the 90-year-old self of theirs had to thank them for the choices they made for 40, 50, what would those be?
Brilliant.
Because that is exactly, today I'm sure at the age of say 40 or 30 or 50, there are few things that you thank yourself for the choices you made in your 20s. The same thing, the 90-year-old self of yours is going to thank you for the choices you made in your 40s. Because that's going to determine how that 90-year-old is going to live. Right? And those would mean, as I said, sense of purpose, relationship. There is a huge amount of data that shows that the people who have been able to build relationship and have the skill to build relationships, because today's relationships are going to be different, they are going to be multi-generational again.
Correct.
Remember, when you go to a birthday party today or in 20 years from now, there will be more number of old people in that birthday party than the young, and that's you have never seen in your life like that. Especially if you're an Indian, you have never seen that in your life. There have always been some 100 cousins, probably 10 parents and one grandparent. That pyramid is going to get exactly reverse in a multi-generational reality. So your ability to build long-term relationship with different generational people is extremely important, because there is a lot of data which suggests that the social structure and the relationship you developed is directly proportional to the way you age.
Right.
So sense of purpose, relationship and health. So the choices that you were talking about in terms of health, so probably you have to think it like a marathon, right? Life, not like a sprint. So does 70-hour week will help your 90-year-old? Probably not.
Right.
Right. So would a 50-hour week, but consistently done over the next 15 years, be better for your 90-year-old? Probably yes. So you have to find out, and I'm not giving a number. I don't know the data that 50-hour is the best, or 70 is the best, or 40 is the best. But the point is, are you taking unnecessary, undue stress to maximize today that is a cost for tomorrow?
Correct.
And how can you change around that? And it's easier said than done, but obviously one has to play an active role, and that's why I said you have to play an active role in making choices for it to become the
Correct.
gift. Otherwise, it's a curse.
Yeah.
It will become a curse.
So, Amit, you covered a lot around what could go right to make a long life a gift. I want to understand what all could go wrong. Where does it become a curse?
So all the factors that you mentioned, health, money, sense of purpose, right? All of this can get tough, because if you have put everything and you're exhausted, tired, your body is worn out, you don't have relationships, all of that can become a curse, because you will be having much more time. You are at an extra time. You've got extra time, an extra time in the middle as well as in the end, right? Fortunately, in the middle as well. So your middle is going to be 50 to 70.
Right.
Now, if you have not learned any new skills, you're not relevant, it's going to be tough. Right? You don't have a mindset to be open to do new things, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
Because you will not have those career ladders which were traditional there. Economically, it might become very difficult for people to sustain if they have a plan to only work till 55 and retire. Because what will you do the remaining 40, 35 years, 40 years of your life? So to remain relevant, you will need to look at all three factors. How do you remain useful? How do you remain, so lifelong learning, education, openness, in terms of everything, right? Openness in terms of ability, reskilling yourself, reinventing yourself, as well as learning new things as well, right? So money, right, huge important part. So how do you really, right from working for more number of years to investing in the right, as I said earlier, 90-year-old, will the 90-year-old like the 40-year-old splurging the money away? Probably not. So are you investing in yourself in such a way that the 90, 95, 100-year-old would be happy that he or she has the money in the account?
Correct.
So that's going to be important, right? So all of these factors, if not done, can be cursed. If the governments and the institutions, for example, are not prepared for this, right? One of the biggest risks of such kind of changes are they are slow and they are certain, but they are not a panic. And they become a panic, and by the time they become a panic, You can't change anything in that panic. You can't change much. I mean, it's not anything. You are in a desperate situation because that, and if someone has not prepared by that time, if the governments have not prepared how to take care of the society, if there's no those kind of care homes, those ecological systems in place, if the fundings, the investments done to take care of those, the policies that benefit all of those, the individuals are not in, have not done those planning and choices and are in a bad health, badly skilled, right? The institutions have not prepared themselves. Then it's obviously is a huge tax.
Yeah.
It's a huge tax to the system.
It is systems thinking is the way I look at it, and the thing that comes to my mind is we used to read in the books, right? You keep a frog in boiling water, and the frog doesn't jump. Whereas if put the frog in hot water, it'll jump out. Right? So it's
you
like,
mean if you keep a frog in a warm water, it doesn't?
it doesn't, and even if
But
you
it
have the
has-
stuff
yeah,
going
yeah.
on, the frog doesn't jump out. But that's
Very
the case,
similar,
right?
yeah.
The way I kind of think of this, if I can sum up what you said, is it kind of really, for me, it starts from growth mindset, right? If you are not agile enough, if you are not flexible enough to reinvent yourself, it's a challenge, because then you're going to be focused on what you think is your career ladder, which is going to become irrelevant at some point, which results in your money again drying up. And if you've really not managed your money, then your health, anyway, if you've not taken care of your lifestyle, you're again going to have some massive challenges, right? So they're all interrelated, they're all connected in some way or the other. And so you have to be able to match or work on all these three aspects. Now, I have one last question, right, which is what would you advise people to reflect upon based on the conversation today? If you had them to think, you asked some interesting questions, right? But just for those who are kind of at the end of this podcast, what would you ask them to think about to design a meaningful, inspired, successful life?
Oh, that's I wish I knew, but yeah, I mean, a couple of things I would say that I keep pondering about and reflecting about, and a long way to execute all of those. But is I two elements. The fundamentals of life, fortunately, don't change. The basics in terms of having good health, having good relationship, working on those elements actually don't change. Be it 100-year life or 200-year life, those change. So how do you remain closer to the fundamental principles of life? Is in and not get distracted by the bigger or a lot of other disruptions and trends. Still remains the same importance that it was always. So that's something good because it doesn't change. So you don't have to worry about it. But what other thing you have to do when you do that is reinvent. Keep reinventing yourself. I think we talked a lot about what a 90-year-old would thank you for. We talked about how each of these entities will play a role, how you have much more to do and how it can be a gift. But a lot of that will depend on reinventing yourself. And you look at it, it's not that something new really. If you look at who are the people you feel are extremely successful in say in Indian context, in say sports or movies, the names that come is Sachin Tendulkar, the name that comes is Amitabh Bachchan. Why are they so successful? If you look at the core of it, in that context of what they are, it's longevity. Right? There are many innings that many have played which are better than what Sachin would have played on a particular day. But Sachin is such a big legend because he played at a certain level of the game for the longest period of time that anyone else has. And to do that, has he reinvented himself? Of course, he has reinvented himself. His game at the age of 16, when Gavaskar, I remember the tag, he said the BB must wait for the ball to come. From that to the Sydney innings where he didn't play a off drive, to make those innings. It's a huge reinvention for the person with the skills that he had. Take Amitabh Bachchan. He is not the angry young man of the 70s or 80s. He completely reinvented his work and his image and went through so much in life. And he is at 77, I think, or 79, and he still has more movies than most newcomers have, people at age of 40, right? So 30 or 20. So longevity has been, now it's become even more important. Now we need everyone to probably start thinking that they have an innings to play for 40 years and 50 years. So that doesn't change much.
Brilliant. So this has been an awesome podcast. To sum it up, 100-year life, Dirghayu, can be a gift or it can be a curse. It depends on you. We're going to continue bringing awesome people, awesome guests on this podcast every alternate week. So every alternate Friday, you'll find a podcast on DASAR. Go to DASAR YouTube channel. Go on Startup Social website. Hit the like button if you liked this conversation. Subscribe to this channel. We are going to bring in some awesome healthcare professionals, startup founders, and investors in the healthcare space to talk about our health, and how we can make our health really easily accessible to all. How can we make it possible to decode some of the myths, some of the issues, some of the concerns. We're going to go deep on some topics which might be controversial, and that's okay. We're going to try to get multiple perspectives on a topic. So this was Amit Gandhi. I want to thank you for
much for calling
kicking off this podcast series. Go on startup socials as well. On startup socials, what you'll find is if you're a healthcare professional looking to connect with the admin, the management, the ownership of various healthcare and pharmaceutical companies, startup social helps you do that, right? So if you wanted to get access to, say, Amit, you could always reach out to us, or you can go on the startup social platform. And at DASAR, we try to decode and we try to help people reinvent things. Okay, you'll find our newsletter. Go to dasar.in. You'll find a pop-up. Put in your name, put in your email address, and hit subscribe. We will send you one email newsletter every Wednesday night, which will have a lot of things which is going to make you think, and hopefully will make you take one action item as an outcome of that newsletter. My name is Darshan. I'm the founder of DASAR, and I look forward to seeing you again. Thanks.